Okay, once again, welcome to this particular session on executing strategy without burning out, without a chance of burning out your people, as the case may be at this point in time. We are here to look at a few things on how we can ensure that we get it right when it comes to our strategy execution. P4P Institute regularly runs these webinars as a way to educate our community and to help them to build better institutions that scale, that grow, and that continue to deliver value to their stakeholders. Our talks and webinars are designed for professionals, team members, and individuals who would implement this and help to advance their cases within their organization. Our organization, P4P Institute, is a business driver, is a value growth driven institution. We focus on advisory services that enable growth, development, and transformation, either in terms of consulting, in training, or in research, as the case is. We are privileged to have been able to serve a couple of communities and industries down the line, including aviation, transport, financial services, manufacturing, energy, and public sector, as the case is. We are well known for our learning and development programs across various institutions, as these are usually high energy opportunities to drive growth and help institutions to experience what it takes to actually engage and get their people to do and deliver value. My name is Joel Omike. I am a trusted advisor, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm a coach, popularly referred to as the HR Godfather. I've been privileged in the past 28 years of what I do to engage organizations and to help them to advance while I understand institutions and what value they like to create for their various stakeholders. I've spent quite some time understanding the HR landscape and also understanding strategy, as the case is, and how organizations can implement their strategy through people. This session we're about to go through is a quiet discussion on how you can achieve this same objective using your people. So the fundamental question remains in this particular conversation on why is it important for us to examine how strategy is executed? Why is it that a lot of strategy programs fail even before they start off, as the case is? We're going to examine the numbers and see what it has to say and see how we can understand very well how to improve in this particular area. We'll start our conversation first with what I refer to as the death of strategy. The quiet death of strategy. Strategy is no longer as active as we used to see it. Back in those years, some 10, 15, 20 years ago, is a mainstay, is a main thing. A lot of organizations are running around at the end of the year trying to do their strategy. But in recent times, we've noticed that the energy on strategy has really reduced. A lot of institutions are not so much driven strategically anymore. We notice they are in the mode of reacting. The VUCA world out there is so turbulent that organizations do not have enough time to strategize and plan. And when they do plan, it appears as if it is not very progressive at that point in time. Now, when it comes to executing strategy without burning people out, as the case is, why most change programs fail before they even start. For one thing, strategy is like an iceberg. An iceberg, at the tip of the iceberg, is what people usually see, which is a failed strategy. When strategy fails, all people see is a failed strategy, the tip of the iceberg at that point in time. But hidden under that particular iceberg is something much bigger than the strategy that failed that we saw at the top there. What we see below are execution issues that led to the failure of that particular strategy. So strategy fails quietly even before it fails publicly. Strategy does not collapse overnight. It erodes daily, quietly, carefully, as the case is. What leaders feel as resistance is often exhaustion caused by poor execution design. So burnout is actually a symptom. It is not the disease in itself, as the case is. It is a symptom to show that something else is faulty within the organization. And usually we do know that execution is a leadership discipline. It should be driven from the top, as the case is. But today we deal with the real problem, not the popular excuse people give for failure of strategy. Change succeeds when work moves, not when slides impress. You know, when we come to the boardroom during our retreats, during management, they put up the slide, you know, they present it, you know, and everybody say, great slide, great idea. Let's do it. So the slides are very impressive, but slides do not drive change in organizations. Change happens when work happens within the organization. So until we are able to take that baby feet, that baby step as expected within the organization, it is difficult for us to experience it properly. Now, there's what I refer to as the execution paradox. And the execution paradox is, interestingly, why approved strategies still die. The board has approved it, budget has been allocated, everybody has agreed, and we are all on board. Yes, the strategy dies. That is what we call the execution paradox. And why? Because there is a variance between boardroom and day-to-day operations. There is a variance between ESCO's meeting and operational execution of the strategy. Leaders at the top usually approve strategy intellectually. Strategy most times are intellectual exercise. Think about it. If you've been privileged to attend a couple of strategy sessions, you notice that it is full of insights, the emerging trends, what competitors are doing, the market analysis and the data. So it's very intellectual in nature, as the case is. However, organizations experience strategy operationally. They don't experience it by market insights. The team members within the organization who execute strategy do not do it from market insight. They do not do it from data, from those analyses. They do it from an operational point of view. This is why approval of strategy is not the same thing as commitment to execute it. So approval is cheap. Just like they say, talk is cheap, right? Execution is extremely expensive, very expensive. And this is why sometimes when we are hiring staff, you hear that the management, when they are talking to the candidate, they say, look, I want a candidate that will hit the ground running. What does hit the ground running mean? That's not strategy. That is execution. They just want people who can plug in instantly and deliver results. You see that the focus is not on strategy, but on execution. And that's where it should be at that point in time. At the board level, they approve the strategy. But the organization must pay the price in time, in attention, in energy before the strategy is sufficiently executed. And so there you have it. That gap is where strategy goes to die. And most times that gap is on the shelf where we forget the strategy documents as the case is. So work routines end up remaining unchanged. We continue working the way we used to work before the strategy was announced at that point in time. This is why I say that it is a paradox, right? While we have approval for strategy, it still dies at that point in time. Now, there are a couple of lies, right? Very popular lies that leaders tell to blame the failure of strategy. So this is what leaders blame versus actually what has failed at that point in time. One, they claim that people resist change. And you'll agree with me and agree with them that yes, people resist change. So, but in reality, people don't necessarily resist change. What do they resist? They resist confusion because they don't understand what the strategy is about. They don't understand what is going on at that point in time. So the easier way out is resistance at that point in time. We didn't communicate enough, some leaders will say, that the reason why the strategy failed, HR did not run campaign. Strategy department did not travel around all the branches to go and educate them on the new strategy. They have not been sending messages and mails regularly. So the people are not well informed at that point in time. So they blame failure of strategy on insufficient communication at that point in time. Again, this is a fallacy. When leaders lack clarity, employees will protect themselves. When they are not seeing clear communication, clear, consistent communications from the leaders, the body language of the leaders, it's not about the campaign that HR runs. Yes, HR's campaign is useful. Yes, the strategy, what do they call it? They usually call it roadshow, right? That they travel around to all the locations. They buy t-shirts for all the staff with logos. We'll come for a one-day retreat, right? Where we have some fun. And then we go back to business as usual after that particular campaign. Guess what? It is not communication that is the only issue. It is because our leaders are not very clear. I'm sorry I'm calling out our leaders, but that's just the truth, right? Because execution is a leadership discipline, right? So resistance is often a rational thing that our people put in place once they feel or they can't feel leadership involvement at that point in time. The third reason that leaders blame failure of strategy on is middle managers. They see middle managers, they are all operational. They are not strategic in their thinking. They are the ones blocking the strategy flow at that point in time. Again, if you think this through in reality, the thing is that there is lack of clarity, both in roles and incentives. These are the things that has failed, and that is why strategy execution is failing. People are not clear on the roles they are supposed to play. What is my part in order to contribute towards this particular strategy? And even when my path is very clear, they refuse to connect it from where I am to the top of the strategy at that point in time. So we want to become number one in the industry. Number one is measured by balance sheet size, as an example. And so you asked me to go and sell. Your target is 200 million. Go and sell. I said, why am I selling 200? He said, just go and sell 200 million. If you meet your target, you deliver. You don't need to know. Because I don't understand how 200 million target of myself connects to the assets of the organization, connects to the balance scorecard of the organization. It is difficult for me to actually wake up and rise beyond that particular 200 million at that point. So roles are not clear. Incentives are also not clear. So, okay, if I deliver, what's in it for me? Say, well, it depends on when management, after they do performance review, depending on what management discovers, they may decide whether to promote some people or some people can get bonus. You see, there's no clarity on incentives. On what side of the bread is it buttered for me that you're asking me to come and execute at that point in time? These are some of the reasons why strategy fails, because people will choose resistance as being rational once they don't understand all those particular things at that point in time. In some cases, execution stalls even after strategy has been approved. Why does execution stall? Because usually you know that in January, we're in January now. You see, those who did strategy retreat in November, December, in January, there's a lot of energy. We're running around. We're excited. We're energized. We're doing a lot of things. But as we move towards February, we move towards March, the battery begins to die down. Because there is no way we are not recharging those particular batteries. You notice that the leadership, the executives, The senior managers who are driving those energy, moving around and running around, they become drained gradually. Why? There is a hidden cost of execution. And this is something that some businesses are not accounting for. One, leadership energy drains over time if it is not constantly recharged. Why would we run leadership or strategy retreats or team building once a year and we expect 12 months of performance? How can one team building activity sustain 12 months of energy, as the case is? So leadership will drain energy. Their energy will die down the line, as the case is. This is why if you think of our inverter system, our solar system, once the sun is up and it is charged, it is active. Look at the street lights that are solar powered. Early in the night, it is very bright because the energy has just been charged, as the case is. But visit that street again at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. You notice that the glow of the light has dimmed down, as the case is. The energy has started draining. This is why the sun rotates, or the earth rotates and brings back the sun again every day, so that the energy of those solar systems are recharged and they continue to shine. But tell me, where is the organizational system that rotates the leadership energy back so that the sun is there to shine for them and they are not drained at that point in time? That is one business case that we are not accounting for. Two is decision fatigue. Most strategies are funded financially, but they are starved of emotional energy in the currency of execution. And it is always limited, as the case is at that point in time. Energy is the currency of execution, and energy is always limited. So fatigue will set in. After a while of we not having access to the emotional stamina that we need to deliver this, it's not just financial. Unfortunately, we always see budgeting as financial. We always see the plans of the year as financial. And so we say, okay, the target is this. Once we allocate the budget for this, for the projects and the activities, we are good to go. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way. There's also role anxiety that we notice at those executive levels, so to speak. Each time, each year, you notice that HR is taxed to hire staff. On the average, most organizations discover that they need a lot of staff or new staff in January. Why? Because strategy has just been reviewed, and part of the agreement is that successful execution is dependent on injection of additional talent or upskilling of talent down the line. Meanwhile, throughout the year, as talent is abused or talent resigns and leaves, there is no systematic process for its replacement and being brought back to speed. Of course, what do you expect? A hidden cost at that point in time. So energy is drained and we're not able to deliver so much. There's also a slow erosion of trust. Sometimes there are promises that are made to employees or to stakeholders that are not delivered. And so gradually team members lose trust on its leadership. And once you make those promises and it is not executed or implemented, we end up having issues at that point in time. And we're not able to follow through as the case is. What can our leaders do? We look at another place where strategy fails. And it's usually after the first 90 days. Have you seen that a lot of books are written about 90 days? First 90 days at work, first 90 days in the office, first 90 days in this. They are always about the first 90 days. How about the rest days after the 90 days? How about the rest months, the rest 9 months after those 90 days or first 3 months? So usually in the first 90 days, there is no clear what needs to change. All we have is a lot of chant, mantra, slogan that we are carrying. And every organization has a slogan each year, as the case is. Roles remain untouched, right? You have changed the expectations, you've changed the direction, you've changed the market, as the case is, but you have not redefined the roles that will support those particular markets. how then will strategy execute well? It will really stall at that point in time. KPIs remain the same thing. Last year, you measured the salespeople by number of units sold. This year, you're also measuring by number of units sold. Meanwhile, the direction of strategy has moved away from quantity and volume. And sometimes calendars do not shift. So if nothing changes in the first 90 days, nothing meaningful will change in the rest 1 to 3 years down the line. Momentum, interestingly, is like vegetables. Momentum is perishable. It will perish with time as you progress at that point in time. And this is where we are calling out our leaders and our executives to think the process through. Give it more time, more attention in ensuring that we are able to execute strategy without burning people out at that point in time. Now, there are a couple of diagnostic lenses that you can look at in order to ensure that you understand this very, very well. So the execution diagnostic lens shows us 4 silent killers of strategy that we can work against in order to solve. These 4 kill strategy and execution quietly, as the case is. The first one is decision ambiguity, like we mentioned earlier, because we are not too clear who is in charge of certain decisions and stuff like that. There's also the issue of role confusion. Where does your job stop? Where does my own start? If there are overlaps, how do we ensure seamless handshake at that point in time? Or do we have the story of somebody will take care of it and nobody eventually takes care of it? There's also incentive misalignment, like we said earlier, and then capacity blindness. We think that budget is enough that budget defines capacity. We think that having the total number of staff we want 20 staff, and so we have 20 staff on grant, so we have capacity. Quantity is not the same thing as capacity. Sometimes you may have quantity, but you don't have capacity. Sometimes you may have the right number of people, but they are not at the competency level. They are not at the energy level. They are not at the engagement level for them to be able to deliver results at that point in time. And so here calls for careful attention on what to do in order to address this thing. So these 4 silent killers of execution kill execution and strategy quietly. No noise, no protest, just slow deaths. Every failed strategy I personally have seen in my projects that I have done, I have seen suffers at least 2 of these. Think of all the strategy you've seen. Which of them do you feel have suffered from various parts in this particular area? Even look at the country called Nigeria as an example. Our country has suffered a lot of strategy failures in various areas. And sometimes you can narrow it down to issues of decision ambiguity. The executives are speaking a different language from the legislators, as the case is. Or there is role confusion. Where does police work stop? Where does last mass work start? Where does road safety work stop? Where does VIO work start? So there is role confusion, as the case is. Sometimes you can see on a road, you have 4 checkpoints on that particular road, and all checkpoints, one after the other, ask you for vehicle particulars. So you see why it is very frustrating, as the case is, when strategy is not well articulated properly, or its execution at that point in time. Or there's an incentive misalignment. Remember, people will do what you reward. And people will repeat it also, as the case is. So if you measure it, they will do it. If you reward it, they will repeat it at that point in time. So if strategy is failing or execution is failing, what are you rewarding? Check whether we are rewarding proper execution at that point in time. Are we overcapacitated or are we undercapacitated at that point in time? Also check whether and when we say staffing, we're not just talking about numbers. We're also talking about quality. We're talking about competence. We're talking about engagement level of staff. We're talking about their empowerment, right? How they feel, how committed they are to the job that they are doing at that point in time. All of these lead to the silent death of execution. Now, if you do a quick poll, right? And let's take this home to your individual organizations as the case is. Organizations that you have seen in the past, be honest with this evaluation. This is not optics, right? This diagnosis precedes healing. You cannot heal, an organization cannot heal if they are not sincere and honest about their current position. So which one of these is hurting you the most? In your organization, do you have delayed decisions? Are the hard decisions delayed? Examples of hard decisions are, we know we need to redeploy somebody, but we do not want to redeploy him. We know someone needs to be exited, but we don't want to exit the individual. We know someone is not competent for a particular job, but we are not making those calls at that point in time. We know that something is faulty and broken, but nobody wants to fix it, so that his name is not mentioned at that point in time. Those are part of what we call delayed hard decisions. We take our time in taking hard decisions at that point in time. And sometimes, because executive leadership do not have the strength, they end up calling external consultants to come and help them to take the decision. And then they announce to the rest of the staff that, well, it is the recommendation of the consultant. Meanwhile, the leadership is aware of these things and they wanted a third party so that they are not blamed at that point in time. This is hurting us. 2, people don't know what changed. Sometimes, even when you announce certain change initiative with the organization, after the announcement, directly, immediately after the session, while we are having lunch at the end of the day, maybe after you finish wearing the t-shirt and all those things, during lunch, somebody turns and says, I beg, what were they talking about? They were just speaking, I didn't understand. So some people are not aware of what is changing within the organization at that point, irrespective of the communication, either because the communication is not properly timed or placed at a level higher than they are at that point in time. Also, our reward system contradicts our strategy. Next month at our HR conference, we are launching our performance management reports. The state of performance management within Africa and Nigeria. And in that report, if I can give you a sneak preview into it, it shows clearly that more than 40% of organizations do not have reward system tied to performance. And the only 20% that have reward system tied to performance, about half of them, their reward system is a tangent to the drivers of strategy at that point. So they are majorly rewarding activities within the organization. So when rewards contradict strategy, execution will not follow through very well. Execution will not be seamless. And then finally, some organization, everyone is busy, but nothing is moving. You get to that organization, there's a lot of activity, buzz, people are moving around, you see energy flowing around, people are moving, but the needle of performance is not moving in any direction. So too much activity, no results at that point in time. So if we look at these 4 items as the case is, right? And then we'll begin to ask ourselves the question, which of these 4 are drivers that we need to pay attention? It will help us to course correct, right? And then achieve the best results at that point in time. Now, there are other ways leaders burn people without noticing it. There are other ways our leaders burn their staff without noticing that they are burning their staff at that point in time. Very subtle. An example, let's be clear on what burnout is. It is like hard work. Why hard-working teams still break down? One is that burnout is not the same thing as workload. Some people say, I have too much workload. That the too much workload is the cause of my stress. Sometimes it is not the cause of the stress. When people are pulled in more than one direction, like a tug of war, as the case is, by the same leaders, it causes exhaustion. It causes, which is inevitable within the organization. The real reason employees are burnt out is that expectations are not clear. Some of our leaders behave like babies and children. I want this, I want this, I want that. They throw tantrums, and then some of the employees are caught in between it, like mothers who are frustrated trying to take care of a tantrum baby at that point in time. Does the baby want to eat? Does the baby want to sleep? Does the baby want to play? Does the baby want a change of clothes? The managers are always asking for, please go and do this, go and do this, go and do this. So the employee is confused. Please, madam, which is priority? Which do you want done now? And which one should I do later at that point in time? Sometimes those leaders do not clarify those priorities. So this causes conflicting priorities that exhaust people, and then they are not able to move on at that point in time. And so even though there is a new strategy in place, we have gone for retreat and we put a new strategy in place, we still have the same old rules of doing work, old methods, all right, old principles. In fact, there are some organizations that their staff policies have not changed in the past 5 years. How can strategy be executed if your policy remains the same for half a decade? It is difficult to make progress at that point in time. So role confusion, strategy changes faster than job descriptions. Sometimes strategy changes every year. Every time we go for retreat, they adjust the strategy. Tell me, when was the last time you did an organization-wide job description review or update in your organization? How then do we expect strategy to continue to evolve and execution to happen if our job descriptions stay static? Strategy demands new behaviors, but in our job description, the behavior remains the same. He must be this kind of personality, able to do this, able to do that. The job description is describing the staff of yesterday and not the staff of today that we need. Our person specification is ancient. It's not the same thing that we need anymore at that point in time. And so we clearly struggle to be able to deliver results. Managers improvise. They end up adjusting things in different ways, right? Because once they notice that the job description is not working again, they stop using the job description. That is why when it comes during appraisal, the job description, we remember the job description when we are setting performance goals. After I finish setting it, the next time we remember that job description is at the end of the period, the performance period, when we are reviewing again. Say, go and look for a job description. Bring it, let's review it. So accountability becomes a little bit fuzzy, right? It's not very clear. We're not able to deliver a lot of results at that point in time. Another way our leaders burn out our people is by dragging their leg with decisions. There is a lot of leadership uncertainty as the case is, all right? Sometimes if you focus on some of our law enforcement agents, you notice that they are the cause of the bottleneck in certain areas. Well, because that is what they know as the case is at that point in time. Some of our leaders also, they say the bottleneck, the neck of the bottle is at the top, and the neck of the bottle is designed to control the flow of liquid out of the bottle at that point in time. If you take a bottle of drink and pour it, you notice that it doesn't all pour out immediately. It pours out gradually as it's entering the cup at that point in time. That's called a bottleneck. And most bottlenecks, most constraints are the neck of the bottle. And that's where our leaders are. Leaders postpone tough decisions. Teams wait and they keep guessing that management will do this, they will do this, they will do that. All right? Speed gradually declines because we are waiting to see what management will do at that point in time. And of course, like we discussed earlier, energy continues to drain downwards at that point in time. So unmade decisions do not disappear. So you think that you've avoided making the decision. By not making it and ignoring it, you think you're free. No, they simply migrate downward as stress, as execution failure, within the organization. We may free you as a leader, we won't disturb you again, but we will go and act it out in the energy we bring to do the job. We will act it out in team disarray, in the fact that the team will not be able to work together just because the leader dragged itself in taking the decision. Other areas we have concerns with is at our KPI level, our dashboard level. Leaders miss some things. Sometimes our leaders will say, we need another town hall meeting. Whenever you hear a leader says we need another town hall meeting, that means the leader feels something is not working or feels that we need to communicate something. So we end up having more meetings, and less outputs. Interestingly, our KPI, our dashboard, does not measure the number of meetings in the organization or the length of time of each meeting. And so the KPI and dashboard does not tell a true reflection of execution parameters within the organization. So there is repeated alignment sessions, there is loud communication, there is low traction, and then at the end of the day, we are quietly disengaged. So when leaders say we need another town hall meeting, execution is already sick. Whenever you're calling for another town hall meeting, that means execution is suffering already. Execution is suffering already at that point in time. All right. So how really do we execute strategy without burning people out? I'm going to share some models, some profiles you can use that you can revisit and then use that to reconfigure what you have within your organization. Now, here is the human execution model where executing strategy without burnout happens. Step one is to decide what truly changes the organization, what truly drives strategy. And step two is to look at all our jobs and roles and redefine or redesign them first. So you need to do a job design or redesign, as the case is. If you haven't done this for the past 3 years in your organization, I honestly request that you should commission a job redesign. Get your best HR team members to do it. And if they are busy or don't have the competence for it, engage a professional. You will notice that you free up your organization to be more seamless, nimble, and they will execute better. Second, identify conflicting priorities. Priorities that are chasing for the same time at the same time at that point. That needs the same results, the same time, and then ask yourself, which one must be truly a priority? There must always be one. You cannot do the two at the same time. It's like an executive who wakes up early in the morning and wants to get ready to get to work. So he has some morning routines. So he must read his holy books, he must shower, he must take coffee, and then he must read the news to see what the stock market is doing. Now he says all four are priorities. But one must be done before the other one. You cannot be having shower while you're drinking coffee. Is that possible? How can you be showering and drinking coffee? So you see, one must precede the other one. Is either you finish the coffee and go get your shower, or you finish your shower and you come and get your coffee. So you must find a way to remove conflicting priorities at that point in time. Then reallocate energy properly to where the real priorities are at that point in time. And then hold our leaders from executive to senior management to our line managers, hold all accountable for clarity. So at the end of meeting between any employee and any leadership, as the employee walks away, he is not in doubt of expectations and how to deliver it. As the employee walks away, the leader is not in doubt as the outcome that the employee is going to deliver at that point in time. This is not soft leadership we're talking about here. It is disciplined leadership for us to get our results out at that point in time. So let me break these steps, these 5 steps, a little bit further. Let's emphasize them well. The first one is decision clarity and role design. What's our expectation? First, you must identify what must stop, what must continue, what must start. What must we stop in the organization? If a manager cannot explain what needs to change to their team members in one sentence, then clarity is not sufficiently instilled in that organization. We must be very clear about who owns what, who is the owner of each of the processes within the organization. One sentence is not enough, right? Because that clarity must be there for us to be sure what is expected to be able to achieve results. So if you say we need to start something, who is the owner of that thing we're going to start? We need to continue something. Do we need to leave it in the current person's hand or reassign it? We need to stop something. If we do stop it, what do we do to the resources that were initially allocated to that thing? So we can reallocate them appropriately at that point in time. So decision clarity and role design, so we can achieve results as we progress at that point in time down the line. The second one is incentives and capacity building. Remember, if I go back to it, the next one says we should remove conflicting priorities and reallocate energy at that point in time within the organization. So incentives and capacity. Incentives drive behavior. That's very clear. Calendars reveal priorities. What you place on the calendar tells us what is the priority. And then you can remove before adding. Do not add when you have not removed. You say management has not approved what will be removed. Let's just add this one. You will increase burnouts. You will increase more confusion, all right, and disengagement within the organization. And remember, attention is finite. That means that people's attention is short-lived and they will soon turn their attention to something else. So show me your calendar and incentives, and I will show you your real strategy and what results you're driving by means of that at that point in time. There was an organization we were doing budgeting and performance review with during their third quarter, last year. And when they were bringing forward their various KPIs and calendar and the things they were chasing, it was clear what the organization was paying attention to. And no wonder the organization was not achieving a particular milestone and objective that they wanted to drive within the organization. They had everything in place except for the cadence that is required to deliver that particular result. In our step 5 here, we said hold leaders accountable for clarity. Hold leaders accountable. Leadership accountability is very, very important. Execution fails upward. Leaders must own it. Leaders are the ones who are responsible for clarity, right? They must ask what is unclear and solve it to ensure that there is clarity always. There is this principle in management that is called managing by wandering about. So where a manager moves around his team members periodically to see how they are doing, leaders should move around and check for clarity. And as they move around, they should ask their team members if everything is clear. If it is not clear, they should engage in order to ensure that they drive more clarity at that point in time. They must review how execution is going, not efforts. They should not review the effort that is being put in, but review the execution that is happening at that point in time. Then they can decide whether to demand for more effort or inject more resource, as the case is at that point in time. And if there are issues and concerns, then it's an opportunity for them to course correct and solve the problem and be able to address it quickly before it becomes another issue onto the organization, as the case is. So this is what we expect leaders to do. So leaders periodically must self-reflect, right? They must be consistent, they must be clear, they must show accountability publicly, right? And they must have a habit of commitment to ensure that everyone who works with them is equally committed on what we're delivering at that point in time. Finally, how do we move from insight to action? Now we know what prevents execution from happening, and how it will happen at that point in time. How do we move from this class to actual execution at that point in time? Our first recommendation is that all leaders should consider doing an executive self-diagnostic. If that doesn't work in your organization, then run a 360 degrees assessment. At the end of this particular session, take this slide, take a screenshot of this slide, and send it to all your leaders and ask them what exactly changed. Now that we have started January and we are 2 weeks down the line, almost a third week into the month, what has changed in our organization? What has changed in your units? What exactly changed? Which roles have you reassigned? Which positions have been reassigned? What have we stopped as a unit, as a department, as an organization? What rewards or incentives have we adjusted? Have we introduced to ensure we get better results within the organization? What unnecessary meetings or lengthy meetings have been restructured so that they can create better value? If your leaders that you share this slide with cannot answer these questions successfully, that means that the execution is already leaking in the unit or department of that particular leader. Now, it depends on the size of your organization and the quantity of leaders who cannot answer these questions successfully. Then your entire organizational strategy may be bleeding and hemorrhaging execution at that point in time. And this is something you should take and go and run as an assessment in order to get results. Rate them and find out where the gaps are. That's why you know what to deal with. The first one is on change. The second one is on role. The third one is on unnecessary activities that create multiple priorities. The fourth one is also on our reward management. And the last one is on necessary meetings that you find within the organization. Now, this is what we have discovered that serious organizations do who want to really have a great impact in what they are doing. They design their execution before they start messaging staff. It's not like we will wing it. When we get to the bridge, we will cross it. That's a useless strategy. But that's a strategy for failure. So you design how you're going to execute even before you begin to message. Test for clarity early enough before you go heads on in executing what you're doing. Ensure that your people are clear. If they are not clear, lock yourself again into a room and create that clarity. It might mean that the leader is not communicating well enough, or that there are other constraints that the employees are struggling with at that point in time. Protect the energy in the organization. Get backups. Install an inverter system and a public power supply system and an alternative energy source. Make sure that the internal energy of execution is well protected. Then kill all misalignments and kill it very fast so that the organization becomes nimble and easy to flow and work and execute at that point in time. Other tests you have to do to ensure that your strategy is moving forward includes being able to test for sentiment. Strategy that excites, that people feel excited about. They chant kumbaya, kumbaya as the case is. Usually exhaust in a short time. It is not strategy. Any strategy that is full of music and sound, after a while, will run out of energy. Just like the police and the law enforcement agencies on the road sometimes will ask the people that they stop. When they see, officer, you want paper? Here is my paper. And the officer will ask, is it paper I will chop? So also our strategy is asking, our execution is asking, not sentiment, real execution. That's what we need. Work improvement is very important. We need to move work because that's proof that execution is happening. Make sure our team members trust themselves, they are actively involved, and they are doing all they can. Just focus on the discipline of execution. Discipline, cadence, is much, much better than enthusiasm. There is a place for enthusiasm, but at the end of the day, it is not the final driver of what we are looking for, as the case is done. Now, if you feel like reading more and examining more, and perhaps going academic with this particular work, here are some works that you may want to pay attention to that provides you with additional insight that you can use as the case is. First is the work of John Cotter that is called Leading Change. Try and get that book, all right, and read it. Then there's also Playing to Win by Roger Martin, How Strategy Really Works. Try and also get that particular book and see what you can do with it. Then Edward Deming, read about some of his works on system thinking, right, and execution. He said that a bad system will beat a good person every time. No matter how talented your staffs are, so long as your system is faulty, Edward Deming says that it will erode the value and the energy of your team members. So fix it. McKinsey and Company also have written around strategy to execution in a lot of their research. And they gave us what they call the 12 building blocks of strategy execution, from designing strategy, mobilizing team members around the strategy, and then executing the strategy at that point in time. And finally, Gallup has written a lot on engagement, and you are familiar with the Gallup 12, right, which ensures engagement and role clarity to all the things that we do. If you use this particular resource, you'll find some value in how you're able to achieve them and deliver results. Now, beyond these literary works, we may also want to take this up to another level, right? Let's have a conversation on our strategy execution diagnostic kit. We can run a diagnostic kit for you strictly on strategy execution. So let's find out how we are executing strategy and how that is going on. Or our role clarity and KPI redesign toolkits. Our calendar is full for January already, helping organizations to redesign their KPI and their roles within their organization. Or get a copy of my book that says Fire Your HR. And that particular book helps you to see how you can transform an organization from a position where it is to a position where it delivers superior results at that point in time. Or any of the programs that we run, this will help you to be able to deliver more results as the case is. If any of this resonates with you, you can quickly book a 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes free call with me, and I'll take you through further discussions in this particular area. All right, I will help you to design your pilot processes, build your systems, all of them in order to ensure you deliver results. Standardize all your deliveries, give you playbooks you can work with, and also the things you need. And of course, deliver any information that you want to deliver as much possible. Just scan the code here, and we'll be able to have a chat, or visit this particular link, calendly.com/Joel Omike. And I'm sure I'll be able to engage you and deliver more results at that point in time, just to help you to do more and then be able to have clarity in what you're doing, especially at this point in time.
It's 1 o'clock.
So let me just drop that on the chat box, calendly.com/Joel Omike. So try and click on it and book a quick call, and then we can have a conversation around it and understand how best to deliver more results down the line for you and your team. And then as you can progress to produce more results, you'll be able to have more at that point in time. Feel free also to join our community. These webinars are run every month. Each month brings with it a new discussion, a new topic for each of the areas where we help our community to grow. All right, learn how to hone your career skills in business development, organizational development, HR transformation, data analytics, AI. All of these are possible, and then we can really, really do better at that point in time. Thank you once again. We at P4P Institute, we are focused on growth, on strategy, on results, and we help people who engage with us to ensure that they are able to deliver as much results as possible. All right. So if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to ask, and I'll be able to take it for the next 2 minutes that we have on this particular call. Thank you for your time. Questions, feedback? Okay, the recording will be shared with you, and you can always have the opportunity to review it at your convenience. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day ahead.